Is it possible that you would liken your Adobe Commerce website to a turtle? Yeah, unfortunately, I hear of a lot of cases where merchants do consider their website pretty similar to a turtle. So let me ask you, what would it take to give that turtle a shot in the arm of caffeine or your favorite legal steroid of choice? What would that do for your customers, for your admin experience? Instead of considering a re-platform, which is expensive, fine to do, but it's expensive, maybe there's a better option. And today, I'm going to talk about what I feel like is an outstanding option, one that I'm really excited about. And that is what I've written about actually in this book called Modern eCommerce. You can also call it Composable eCommerce, or, God forbid, Headless eCommerce. Yeah, I think it's a terrible, terrible name. But what we're going to break down is, what does composable commerce look like for your brand, and what are some of the benefits it can bring to you? I'm Joseph, president here at SwiftOtter, and I'm incredibly passionate about equipping merchants to sell more and to be the absolute best version of themselves, because ultimately you are helping solve other people's problems. So if I can enable you to help solve more people's problems, it is a massive win for me and makes my job absolutely worth it. So, what is composable e-commerce? Modern e-commerce, as I call it. Well, it is basically a glorified re-theme. So right now you have a theme on the front of your website. Maybe you use the default theme that came with Magento, Luma. Maybe you purchased it from Envato or ThemeForest or who knows where. Those tend to be a little bit more problematic. Maybe you have Hoova. And if you have Hoova, honestly, you might be in a good spot already. There are still more benefits that Composable brings, so keep listening if that's the case. Composable is kind of like a separate website that sits in front of your Magento website, essentially walling it off. And we're going to talk about some of the benefits there. There's actually quite a few. But by walling it off, you get to leverage the most modern, incredible web technologies. Now, you might think, well, Joseph, he's a developer, so yeah, of course, he's going to talk about the latest and greatest being the best. I mean, I come from a background where system updates are like the coolest thing ever because you get new features. I also understand and have gotten wiser in my 35 years of life to know that new features often break things. So kind of constant is a little bit better. Let's look at some benefits, though, of Composable and what they can bring to your website. This might sound a little surprising, but hear me out. First off is reduced bounce rate. How in the world can we get a reduced bounce rate? Well, Composable should be done right, and that is the massive caveat here. Done right. I've seen Composable websites that are done poorly, so you need a good agency like SwiftOtter that has invested in finding the best developers out there to get you a really outstanding website. So reduce bounce rate. So as people click through this website, they're going to be like, wow, this is lightning fast. They're going to be able to find information faster. In fact, let me show you a great example of a cool website here, roughcountry.com. Go there yourself. So watch this. I'm going to refresh this page. You really don't even, except for a little bit of size difference, you really don't see it change. Watch this. I'm going to click into suspension parts. Bam, loads up. Look at how fast that is. I mean, it's literally feels like you're using a program on your computer, not like you're browsing the internet. Compare this experience to Amazon. Amazon just gotten ridiculously slow. You literally have time to check your phone between going to pages. So reduce bounce rate. And one other thing that I find, which is somewhat ancillary, is with Composable, it allows for a much better integrated experience. I'm not saying the same experience is not possible without Composable, but all I'm saying is there's these different pieces. You can pull them together in a much cleaner format, which allows you, which instead of then like pulling these pieces in and trying to cobble it together, it's just one package designed for a really beautiful customer experience. One of those benefits that it's hard to put a price on, but it really does make a difference. Now, better core web vitals. So not only do we get to reduce the bounce rate, but we also make the website faster in Google's eyes. Nothing wrong with that, right? Now, the most important ranking factor is relevant content. How do we communicate content relevance? Well, Google has all their magic and stuff, but one way for that is the bounce rate. How quickly it takes for somebody to click into your website versus coming back to that search page. And the faster it is, the less relevant that content is. Now, if you provide a really engaging experience to your customers that's lightning fast to load up, lightning fast to work through the page and maybe click on some other links, keeping them on the website longer, that's going to reduce your bounce rate. And that's a huge win. In fact, that might be one of the biggest wins in the SEO space for Composable. Always good to improve your page speed score. I see most page speed scores for mobile in the 30s to 40s, maybe a little bit higher than that. Depends on the theme. There's a whole bunch of it depends on, but it's honestly pretty low. What would it look like to get that up into the upper 80s, hopefully the 90s? That is not going to hurt your website, and it's certainly going to be an incredible experience for your customers, which makes happier customers. As they're able to browse this really well done, beautiful website, they're going to be happier and more likely to purchase from you. The other thing is better content publishing. So Adobe Commerce comes with Page Builder. And by all intents and standards, it kind of works. But I've yet to meet anybody that thinks Page Builder is incredible. But I have met people that say Contentful or a solution like that is incredible. What Contentful is a specific best-in-class content management system designed for publishing content. Basically, developers build these widgets out, or blocks, and they can be dragged and dropped and moved together and arranged in whatever order you want. And in doing that, then they're saved, and the same block with its variations can power large swaths of your website. Now, compare that on the page builder side. Now, it does give you more options like what font color and all that stuff, but the update process is far more tedious, and the control that it gives you actually can bite you in the butt later on. How is that possible? Well, the way it's possible is, let's say there's a whole bunch of different styling and everything that's on the website. Well, now you get this edict, which does happen on a regular basis. We're going to make this stylistic change to the website. We're going to change this color, this new logo. Well, now you have to go through all those 400 or 500 pages, articles that you posted over the past 5 years, and now you have to get those updated together versus having a tool like Contentful that, of course, brings in all the great features such as scheduling and staging and user management, etc., all right there in that tool. It's pretty cool. Plus, you get to stay on Adobe Commerce. Adobe Commerce is a great platform. And what I often say is people don't leave the platform, they leave the agency with the platform. And that's kind of part of the problem is it depends on your agency, how capable they are. And the more capable they are, what I see is almost always the happier that you are. There's some other things that can affect that, but more capable they are, the happier you will be on Adobe Commerce. So stay on your platform. There's no reason to move. Stick with it, and you will be in a good spot. Now, let's talk about the architecture. I've referenced it just a little bit, but let's go into a little bit more detail. We have Adobe Commerce as it is right here. So Adobe's actually working, by the way, to split this up. And so we'll see how this looks as time goes on. But right now, one code package, one Git repository, where you have the page rendering, you have the business logic, and you have the admin all in one bundle. So if one section is operating slowly, it can actually slow the entire server down, the entire experience down, causing problems. Now, if we look at it from a composable perspective, here is what we have. We have this new program that sits right here, and it basically acts as the hub for the user experience. So this is one program here. This is kind of like the front end part of it, and this is what we call middleware. But this is all one software package. We're basically adding one new program to the mix. So instead of Adobe Commerce being the thing that people go to their website and navigate, we basically add a new layer, a new website in front of that. So back on here, this roughcountry.com, good example. So what happens here is when you go to this website, the headless composable, modern e-commerce engine serves up the content that you see right here. In the background, it's talking to the middleware, which is then talking to Adobe Commerce in the background. Now, you can literally turn off this. It's very little work. The merchant can. I can't. The merchant can turn this off, and then we're served back from Adobe Commerce. It's kind of like this seamless drop-in layer there that sits in front of Adobe and gives and provides the user experience to your customers. Now, there's a lot of advantages to this. First, this new middleware, this new layer is made of the best technology, which gives you these benefits. The other thing is there's more security. This backend is now hard to find. Most of the vulnerabilities either happen through access to the admin or modules. And if we can wall those off, voila, that's impressive. That's really nice. Plus, now we can start bringing in and leveraging additional components into this mix, which makes it even more powerful. Now, when I talked about a seamless drop-in, it's not quite that simple. But what we're seeing here in our practice at SwiftOtter, we are seeing merchants go through a redesign phase at the same time as going composable. However, there's nothing wrong with keeping your existing website look as it is and doing a lift and shift over to composable. The nice thing is the process can happen very seamlessly, right? So your existing website functions as is, and you can literally drop in that new experience whenever you want. You could even technically A/B test it, having the old front end versus the new front end. You could run the new front end every night for several hours and then turn it off after that. It's a seamless drop in to the front to your Adobe Commerce application. The process, as far as the process goes, it's fairly simple, right? There's a design phase. There is a specification page where everything is processed, where everything is worked through, identify what needs to happen. Honestly, the less that can be moved over, the better. All the modules are reviewed, how those interact with the front end, and then those decisions are made for what is put into this new project. We like to start a little bit smaller if possible, and then we can add to that over the course of time, which does bring me to a new point. Typically, installing a new module is, well, it depends on your application, can be fairly straightforward. However, with this modern e-commerce system, you have to, if the module interacts with the front end or the customer experience, you have to then integrate this into the composable side, which can be fast. It can actually take more time as well. And I would say that's one of the bigger disadvantages here. If you leverage modules, that can cause a problem. But on the other hand, I find that modules are one of the biggest culprits to slowing down the customer experience. So the more you can hold yourself back from using a lot of modules on the front end, the better it is for your customers. So I feel like it actually kind of washes out. So question is, you're also going to ask, what does it cost? And of course, my answer is going to come back, it varies. Lift and shift could actually be meaning keeping your same design from the previous methodology to composable. That actually can be more expensive than going through a small design process. The idea with the small design process is to take roughly the default look and feel of a composable theme and to roughly adapt that into your look and feel of your brand. That would be what I usually see is the least expensive route. Now with lift and shift, you generally have to move more things around and there can be more work. But if you love your design, no reason to go through design process and just take that a little bit extra work it'll take to move those components around. We're seeing projects that are 50,000 and up. And I say and up, it can go up very significantly. It just depends on the scope. There's a lot of different levers. In fact, we actually talk about these levers here in the book as far as what will increase or decrease the cost of moving to composable. And so you see this page right here. One easy lever to use is to use the existing checkout. So if you want to save money, and it can be significant, use your existing checkout, and all composable handles then is everything up until the checkout. That's an easy win, and that can actually reduce the cost. we have been investing our time and our resources as well to even get that $50,000 roughly entry point even lower if and as possible. So it can be an incredible value for all that you gain. Now, the other thing is what tools are used here. Now, we don't start from scratch. I think that's a very big problem to start from scratch. I've seen some companies do that. Not a good idea. So there are 3 options out there, and we would help guide you to the best option for Composable on Adobe Commerce. Graph Commerce is typically our favorite option. It's a well-built, well-rounded system. There's also Edge Delivery Services, EDS, and that is a new technology that Adobe has been investing tremendously into, and it kind of comes down to editing your website in Word or something similar to that. It's pretty straightforward and it's nice. Now, if you use Adobe Commerce, you get a certain number of page views from EDS, Edge Delivery Services, every month. Outside of that, then it will cost extra, and the cost can be fairly significant. So keep that in mind, but Edge Delivery Services is incredibly promising and it's coming up very quickly. View Storefront is another option. In fact, our website is powered by Magento in the background and View Storefront on the front end. It's very powerful. It works well. It's been around for a long time, just like Graph Commerce has been around for quite a while. They're good, stable pieces of software, and you won't regret your decision going toward either one of those. So this has been a bit of a longer overview. I hope you found it helpful. If you want to find out more information, we have our book, Modern E-Commerce. Download it. In fact, I'll send you a free copy if you would like. I hope you found this helpful, and if you did, please do click that like button.